who does not just pass through your story, they close it. They leave such a final impression that once they exit, there is no one else quite like them who follows. This figure, for many, is the Sigma male. Unlike others who enter relationships or friendships seeking validation, Sigma males walk in with a different energy. They are not bound by the desire to impress or conform. Their presence is quiet but certain, unpolished yet magnetic. People rarely understand them fully, but they feel their weight. And when they leave, it often feels as though a chapter has ended that can never be rewritten. This is not because Sigma males are perfect, far from it. They are flawed, human, and learning like everyone else. But what separates them is their rarity, their refusal to play roles dictated by society, their ability to remain detached while still deeply observant, and their capacity to give without ever demanding. People sense, often unconsciously, that they are dealing with someone who cannot be replaced. The brutal truth is this: Sigma males are not built to linger in everyone's life. They are often transitional figures, teachers, catalysts, or mirrors that reveal truths others were not ready to see. They leave behind lessons, growth, and sometimes even regret. But rarely do they leave behind indifference. So why do Sigma males feel like the final chapter in people's lives? Why do they hold this peculiar place in human memory and emotion? The answer lies in the way they move, think, and connect. In this video, we will explore 6 key truths about why Sigma males often become that unforgettable ending, the last chapter that shapes how people remember, reflect, and even move forward. Number 1, they do not play roles. Most men move through life by stepping into roles that society has already carved out for them. The hero who saves the day, the joker who lightens the mood, or the leader who commands attention. These identities are safe, familiar, and easy to understand. They provide a kind of social script that everyone recognizes and can respond to. Yet in this predictable performance, something essential often gets lost: authenticity. Sigma males, however, refuse to wear these masks. They reject the expectation to conform to an archetype, choosing instead to walk a path that is entirely their own. This decision doesn't just make them different, it makes them unforgettable. When someone encounters a Sigma male, what they sense is not a polished act, but a raw presence. Studies in psychology reveal that authenticity is one of the most magnetic traits a person can embody. In fact, research has shown that authentic individuals are more trusted, respected, and often more attractive in social dynamics because they project consistency between their inner values and outward actions. The Sigma male thrives in this space of alignment. He doesn't feel the need to prove himself through words or exaggerated gestures. His authenticity does the speaking. This is why, when a Sigma male leaves someone's life, the absence feels heavier than with most others. It's not because he was louder, more dramatic, or more charismatic, but because his presence was rooted in something real. Once someone has experienced this level of authenticity, every other mask, whether it's the hero's charm or the leader's dominance, feels like a shadow in comparison. This is the brutal truth behind why Sigma males often linger in memory. People may try to fill the gap with others, but the replacements rarely measure up. What makes this dynamic even more fascinating is how it plays out across different aspects of life. In workplaces, Sigma males often operate independently, uninterested in climbing ladders for the sake of status. In relationships, they don't chase validation, which paradoxically makes their attention far more valuable. And in friendships, they avoid superficial bonds, preferring connections built on mutual respect. These choices set them apart from the scripted roles most men play, and the contrast is stark. Ultimately, the Sigma male's refusal to conform creates a paradox. He may seem distant, even hard to understand, but he leaves behind something rare: the memory of someone who lived without compromise. In a world saturated with imitation, his authenticity is the final chapter in many people's stories, a chapter that cannot be rewritten once closed. Number 2, they teach without trying. Simply by living independently, Sigma males show others how little external validation is truly needed, and that lesson lingers long after they are gone. In a world that constantly measures success by likes, approval, and social recognition, their quiet detachment is almost shocking. It is not rebellion for the sake of rebellion, but rather a subtle demonstration that fulfillment does not require the applause of a crowd. Psychologists have long studied the effects of external validation on human behavior, noting that while social approval can temporarily boost self-esteem, it often creates a cycle of dependency. Sigma males break that cycle. Their independence reveals a different truth: that self-worth is built from within, and that one's direction in life does not need to be tethered to the opinions of others. This independence often leaves a deep impression on those who encounter it. Think of how minimalism has become a movement in modern society. People are drawn to the idea that less can be more, that simplicity can bring peace. In the same way, Sigma males embody a minimalist approach to social energy. They strip away the excessive people-pleasing and posturing, showing that strength can exist in solitude and clarity can be found without constant noise. This isn't to say they reject connection altogether. Instead, they teach by example that genuine bonds matter far more than hollow approval. From an evolutionary psychology standpoint, humans are wired to seek belonging, because in ancient tribes, exclusion often meant death. Yet in the modern world, this instinct sometimes backfires, pushing people to chase validation at the expense of individuality. The Sigma male's lifestyle reminds us that survival no longer requires blending in. It requires authenticity. By choosing independence, they reveal that one can thrive even without constant reassurance. And in doing so, they unconsciously give others permission to do the same. The impact of this quiet lesson is not immediate. It often settles in slowly, like a seed planted in the back of one's mind. Long after a Sigma male has stepped away, people recall how comfortable he seemed in his own skin, how unshaken he was by outside pressure. That memory becomes a mirror, challenging others to ask, am I living for myself or for approval? In that question lies the transformative power of their influence. They may never seek to lead, but their independence teaches a deeper form of leadership, the kind that doesn't command, but inspires. And it is precisely this quiet, enduring mark that makes their presence unforgettable. Number 3, they leave quietly, not dramatically. When a Sigma male exits, there is no chaos, no loud farewell, just silence. And it is in that silence people realize the depth of his presence. This quiet departure speaks volumes about the unique psychology of Sigma males, a personality often described as independent, self-sufficient, and elusive. Unlike those who thrive on validation or external recognition, Sigmas move through life without the need to announce their arrival or departure. Their energy is subtle, yet it lingers in ways that are difficult to ignore. Think of the stillness left behind after a powerful storm. The calm feels heavier because of what just passed through. That is the imprint of a Sigma male. Psychologists often refer to people like this as introverted alphas, individuals who carry authority and influence without demanding the spotlight. Research in social dynamics shows that people remember those who are both rare and authentic. Sigma males embody this rarity by refusing to conform to societal scripts, while their authenticity creates a lasting impression. When they leave a friendship, relationship, or workplace, there isn't a dramatic exit to mark their absence. Instead, the silence becomes a mirror, reminding others of the value they once overlooked. What makes this phenomenon even more fascinating is how silence itself amplifies memory. Studies in cognitive psychology reveal that humans often recall quiet moments more vividly than noisy ones, especially when those quiet moments follow consistency and depth. A Sigma's silence after leaving is not just the absence of sound, it is the absence of presence, and it forces others to confront how deeply his steady influence shaped their lives. Unlike loud personalities who demand attention, Sigmas leave people reflecting, replaying conversations, and recognizing subtleties they once took for granted. In many ways, this mirrors ancient wisdom. The Stoic philosopher Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "The best revenge is not to be like your enemy." Sigmas embody this principle, showing strength not in retaliation or noise, but in restraint and detachment. Their exits are not acts of drama, but lessons in perspective. A reminder that true power lies not in how loudly you can hold a room, but in how deeply you can be missed when you're no longer in it. So when a Sigma male exits, the silence he leaves behind is not empty. It is charged. It is the quiet realization that someone rare has moved on, someone who never sought applause, yet changed the atmosphere simply by being. And it is in that moment people finally grasp the truth. The depth of a Sigma's presence is only fully understood when it's gone. Number 4, they cannot be replaced. Others may try to fill the space left behind, but the absence of performance, the absence of neediness, is difficult to replicate. This is one of the most intriguing aspects of people who live by inner strength rather than outer display. When someone who constantly seeks approval leaves, the void they create is quickly replaced, because attention seekers are easy to recognize and even easier to imitate. But when a person's presence is grounded in quiet confidence, their departure lingers in ways that words cannot explain. What makes this absence so profound is not just who they were, but what they refused to be, desperate for validation, eager for attention, or bound by the opinions of others. Sociologists and psychologists have long studied this phenomenon, often linking it to concepts like self-differentiation and non-attachment. The idea is simple. People who are not defined by others are harder to forget because they never played by the script of society in the first place. Instead of chasing approval, they cultivate an identity rooted in independence. Studies on human attraction show that confidence without arrogance, what researchers sometimes call authentic confidence, creates a magnetic pull. It's not loud or flashy, but it leaves an imprint on memory precisely because it feels rare in a world full of performance. This absence of neediness also mirrors lessons found in philosophy. The Stoics, for example, taught that true strength lies in self-control and detachment from external praise. Epictetus once remarked that a man who depends on others for happiness is enslaved, but the one who governs himself is free. In modern psychology, this resonates with findings about intrinsic versus extrinsic motivation. People who live by inner purpose rather than external validation not only achieve more sustainable happiness, but also stand out in social dynamics. Their relationships are often deeper because they are not rooted in transactional need, but in genuine presence. This is why, when such a person leaves, the emptiness they leave behind is not easily filled. Others can attempt to mimic their composure, but imitation quickly cracks under pressure because it is still performance, not authenticity. Think of it like a stage actor trying to play a role off stage. The illusion works only under certain lights. Once life tests that mask, the difference between someone performing confidence and someone embodying it becomes strikingly clear. Ultimately, the quiet weight of a person who needed nothing from others is unforgettable. Their absence is a mirror, reminding those left behind of the rare strength of simply being. And in that silence, they teach perhaps the most important lesson, that true presence has nothing to do with proving yourself, and everything to do with mastering the art of not needing to. Number 5, they mirror truths people avoid. Being around a Sigma male is like standing in front of a mirror that doesn't flatter you, doesn't distort you, and doesn't lie. It simply reflects you back to yourself. Their detached nature, independence, and refusal to play into social games often reveal uncomfortable truths to those around them. For many people, interactions are filled with masks, politeness, flattery, or small pretenses designed to maintain approval. A Sigma doesn't participate in those rituals. They don't adjust themselves to fit the expectations of others. And that authenticity often forces people to realize just how much of their own life has been shaped by trying to please or impress. Psychologists call this phenomenon social comparison, where people measure themselves by those they are around. But with a Sigma, there's no active competition. They simply exist as they are. This still provokes others to question themselves. Why am I chasing validation? Why do I feel uneasy around someone who doesn't need me to like them? In this way, being near a Sigma can be both unsettling and strangely liberating. You begin to see the cracks in your own habits, ambitions, and insecurities. When that presence disappears, the void is strangely loud. People often feel a sense of relief, no longer having that constant, silent reminder of what they are avoiding about themselves. At the same time, they feel a loss. It's like removing the mirror from a room. You can breathe easier without its honesty, but you also lose the clarity it once provided. The irony is that most only realize the value of a Sigma's presence in hindsight. Studies in human relationships show that people often grow through friction, not comfort. And a Sigma provides that subtle friction without ever intending to. This is why Sigma males often leave such a lasting impression. They don't demand loyalty, they don't cling, and they don't perform. But their authenticity plants questions in others that can't easily be forgotten. Once that mirror is gone, people miss the way it sharpened their own vision of themselves, even if it made them uncomfortable. And so, in their absence, there is both peace and a quiet ache, as if a rare and necessary truth-teller has walked out of the room. Number 6, they value their own path more than attachment. Sigma males are often described as men who walk their own path, prioritizing their journey over attachment to people or societal expectations. This choice of solitude is not rooted in coldness, but in clarity. They understand that clinging to people can sometimes hinder growth, and so they choose to detach. Paradoxically, this very detachment often leaves a deeper imprint on others. Psychology has long shown that scarcity creates value. When something or someone is not easily available, people tend to remember and desire it more. Sigma males embody this principle in human relationships. Their absence speaks louder than many people's presence. From a sociological perspective, we know that humans are wired to form tribes, to seek belonging and validation. The Sigma, however, resists this wiring. He does not cut himself off from society, but operates outside of its need for approval. This creates a unique kind of memory in the minds of others. People remember the man who did not beg for attention, who did not seek validation, but instead quietly focused on his mission. In evolutionary psychology, such figures stand out because they break the pattern. They represent independence, and independence has always been both admired and feared. It is also worth noting that detachment does not mean a lack of care. Many Sigma males are deeply observant, compassionate in subtle ways, and capable of meaningful connections. But when they sense that their growth or peace is at risk, they choose the journey instead. This makes them unforgettable because most people cling to comfort, while the Sigma embraces discomfort if it leads to progress. And so, when they leave, people hold on tighter in memory, replaying the moments, wondering what it was about this rare presence that made such a lasting impact. This is the paradox of the Sigma male. Absence becomes their strongest form of presence. When people meet a Sigma male, they may not fully grasp what they have encountered. Only later do they realize his presence was unlike the rest, a quiet teacher, a reminder of self-respect, and a symbol of independence. And when the chapter closes, it does not reopen. That is why Sigma males often become the final chapter in people's lives. Not because they choose cruelty, but because they walk a path that does not circle back.
There's a reason why some of the most intelligent men you'll ever meet are not the ones standing in the spotlight. They aren't the ones fighting to be center stage, demanding applause, or endlessly showcasing their achievements online. Instead, they move quietly, observing from the sidelines with an almost surgical awareness. These men are often described as Sigma males, the independent thinkers who understand that real power doesn't shout, it whispers. While others chase visibility, they value subtlety, knowing that strength is often found in silence and precision. Operating in the shadows isn't a sign of weakness, it's a mark of wisdom. Imagine a crowded room where everyone is talking over one another, raising their voices just to be heard. The Sigma is there, but he's not competing for the noise. He's the man leaning back, studying every movement, every word, every small detail that others overlook. Research in social psychology shows that quieter individuals often pick up more non-verbal cues than those dominating the conversation. This makes them sharper decision makers because while the crowd seeks attention, they're gathering information. The smartest Sigma males also know a truth that history confirms. Attention can be both a gift and a curse. Too much visibility attracts envy, jealousy, and manipulation. Leaders like Nikola Tesla, for instance, worked tirelessly in the background, prioritizing invention over applause, while more flamboyant figures took the spotlight. By avoiding the constant glare of public attention, the Sigma preserves his energy, protects his peace, and keeps his purpose untangled from unnecessary distractions. Freedom is the hidden advantage of working in the shadows. Without the burden of expectations or the need to maintain an image, these men can move fluidly, adjusting their path when needed. They are not confined by trends, groupthink, or social approval. They choose depth over display, substance over show. In history and in modern life, it is often the silent strategists, the thinkers, inventors, and quiet leaders who leave the deepest impact. Their voices may not fill the room in the moment, but their work echoes long after the noise has faded. In this video, we'll explore why the smartest Sigma males prefer to operate in the shadows. We'll look at 6 key reasons behind their quiet power and why this way of life not only protects them, but also sets them apart as men of substance. Number 1, they value observation over participation. Sigma males know that wisdom begins with clarity of vision. By choosing to remain in the background, they create the space to truly observe human behavior without the noise of constant engagement. This quiet vantage point is not a retreat from life, but a strategic position. Just as a scientist studies patterns in nature by watching patiently, the Sigma studies the movements, words, and motives of those around him. While others rush into action, often driven by impulse or the need for recognition, the Sigma pauses. He notices what others overlook, the subtle shifts in tone, the hidden intentions behind words, and the unspoken dynamics in a group. This ability to discern patterns gives him a level of foresight that feels almost predictive. Observation, after all, has always been a foundation of wisdom. Ancient philosophers like Aristotle emphasized that understanding begins with careful attention to the world around us. Modern psychology echoes this truth, noting that people who take time to observe and reflect often make more accurate judgments than those who act on instinct alone. Sigma males embody this principle. They are not distracted by the need to dominate every conversation or be the loudest presence in the room. Instead, they allow silence to sharpen their awareness. It is in this silence that they gather insights others miss, insights that later inform their decisions and strategies. The advantage of staying in the background is also practical. Neuroscience shows that overstimulation, being constantly active, speaking or seeking attention, limits the brain's ability to process information deeply. By contrast, when one takes the role of an observer, the mind shifts into a more analytical state, detecting connections and anticipating outcomes. Sigma males lean into this cognitive edge. Their patience is not passivity but preparation. When the time comes to act, they are equipped not just with knowledge but with foresight. They move with precision rather than haste, making their actions more impactful. In a world that often rewards noise over nuance, the Sigma male proves that true strength lies in restraint. He knows that by seeing clearly, he can move wisely. His life becomes less about reacting and more about anticipating, less about proving and more about understanding. This balance of observation and action not only sets him apart, but also gives him an enduring advantage in relationships, careers, and personal growth. Observation for the Sigma is not just a habit, it is the root of his wisdom and the secret to his quiet power. Number 2, they avoid needless conflict. Operating in the shadows allows Sigma men to move differently from the rest of the world. Where others chase validation, defend fragile egos, or fight over temporary status, the Sigma takes a quieter path. By refusing to play the game of constant competition, he sidesteps unnecessary confrontations that drain time and energy. This is not avoidance out of fear, but strategy born from clarity. History shows us that some of the most effective leaders and thinkers thrived not by standing in the spotlight, but by observing from the sidelines, choosing their moments with precision. For example, Nikola Tesla, though less socially dominant than his rival Thomas Edison, focused his efforts on innovation rather than public battles. His silence often held more power than words because it left others uncertain, unable to predict his next move. In psychology, this approach resonates with the concept of energy conservation. Human beings have a limited amount of mental and emotional energy each day, and research suggests that constant conflict, whether verbal or physical, elevates cortisol, the stress hormone, leading to fatigue and poor decision-making. Sigma men understand this instinctively. By staying in the shadows, they conserve their resources for matters of real importance. They don't fight over who gets the last word in an argument or who appears more dominant in a social circle. Instead, they save that energy for building businesses, mastering skills, or navigating life-changing opportunities. Their silence can be unsettling. Opponents often expect a reaction, an angry defense, a counterattack, or at least a sign of weakness. When none comes, they are left disarmed. In martial arts philosophy, this is similar to the principle of yielding. A practitioner of Aikido, for example, doesn't meet force with equal force, but redirects it, letting the opponent's energy exhaust itself. Sigma men apply this same wisdom socially and professionally. They don't waste strength where it's not required. They let noise fade on its own, knowing that not every challenge deserves their presence. This ability to operate unseen is not only practical, but also powerful. It allows them to remain unpredictable. While the alpha announces every move and the beta seeks approval before acting, the sigma builds in silence and reveals only results. In a world obsessed with broadcasting everything, this makes them stand out even more. Their quietness becomes their weapon, their restraint, their shield. And when the moment finally arrives to step forward, they do so with the full force of preserved energy, making an impact that those who spent their lives in constant conflict could never achieve. Number 3, they protect their energy. Constant exposure to people, places, and pressures drains a man's mental and emotional reserves more quickly than many realize. Modern psychology calls this decision fatigue, a phenomenon where the more social and environmental stimuli you are forced to process, the less energy your brain has left for meaningful choices. A Sigma male, by nature, is acutely aware of this cost. Unlike those who thrive on external validation, he doesn't spread himself thin across endless conversations, social events, or obligations. Instead, he conserves his mental energy by keeping his circle small, his routines intentional, and his presence subtle. This isn't about isolation. It's about strategy. History shows that some of the most influential thinkers and innovators, from Nikola Tesla to Albert Einstein, often valued solitude. It was in their quiet moments that groundbreaking ideas emerged, precisely because their attention wasn't scattered across trivialities. Studies on creativity consistently confirm that uninterrupted solitude enhances problem-solving and original thought. For the Sigma male, this principle isn't just useful, it's a way of life. By stepping away from unnecessary social noise, he ensures his mental resources are directed toward pursuits that matter, whether that's mastering a skill, building a business, or simply sharpening his worldview. Another reason Sigmas prefer subtlety is emotional preservation. Social interaction, while rewarding, also demands emotional labor, reading body language, adjusting tone, and managing impressions. Psychologists note that even extroverts can feel drained after too much of this. For introverted yet self-sufficient personalities like the Sigma, conserving emotional energy is non-negotiable. They understand that every yes to unnecessary social demands is a no to their own growth. Thus, they make a deliberate choice to invest only in relationships that bring depth rather than shallow familiarity. This approach also shields them from one of the greatest thieves of focus, distraction. In a world that celebrates oversharing and constant availability, the Sigma quietly resists. By refusing to broadcast his every move or spread himself across countless obligations, he maintains the clarity that many lack. And with clarity comes strength, the ability to act deliberately rather than react impulsively. So while it may appear mysterious that a Sigma male prefers the shadows, it's not secrecy for secrecy's sake, it's preservation, it's focus. It's a deliberate redirection of limited mental and emotional reserves toward pursuits that build real value. In doing so, he lives not as a scattered participant in the noise of the crowd, but as a measured architect of his own destiny. Number 4, they move without resistance. The less attention a man draws, the more freely he can move. This principle is something Sigma males deeply understand. And it is not just a matter of personality, it's strategy. History and psychology both show us that visibility attracts scrutiny. The moment someone becomes the center of attention, they also become a target for expectations, criticisms, and even envy. In ancient times, kings and leaders surrounded themselves with guards, not just for physical protection, but because their visibility drew resistance from rivals and subjects alike. The same principle applies in modern life. The louder a man lives, the more obstacles appear in his path. Sigma males, often described as lone wolves of the social hierarchy, avoid unnecessary attention because they recognize how it limits movement. They embody the wisdom found in Sun Tzu's The Art of War, where invisibility and unpredictability are presented as key tactics. When no one knows your next move, no one can stop it. Like water flowing around rocks in a river, the Sigma adapts, bends, and finds his way through challenges without clashing head-on. This ability to remain unnoticed, yet effective, allows him to pursue goals without interference. Psychology also supports this preference for subtlety. Studies in social behavior reveal that individuals who operate quietly and avoid social comparison often experience lower stress levels and higher personal satisfaction. By not placing themselves in constant competition, they conserve mental energy and focus on their personal mission. In contrast, extroverted dominance, or the craving for attention, can drain resources, leading to burnout or vulnerability when others inevitably push back. This doesn't mean Sigma males are weak or passive. Quite the opposite, they are strategic. Think of how intelligence operatives or master chess players succeed. It is not through boasting about every move, but through calculated silence. In fact, many innovators and thinkers throughout history preferred solitude and obscurity while working. Nikola Tesla, for example, was notoriously private, often withdrawing from public life so he could focus on his experiments without distraction. His invisibility gave him the freedom to create without constant resistance. In today's society, where visibility is often mistaken for success, the Sigma male's shadowed path is a reminder that strength doesn't always roar. By staying out of sight, he avoids unnecessary conflicts, preserves his independence, and gains the rare ability to move freely in a world that is always watching. His life flows like water, not always noticed, but always finding its way. Number 5, they let their work speak for them. Sigma males don't announce every step they take because they recognize a timeless truth. Real strength does not need to be constantly broadcast. In today's world, where social media rewards oversharing and many people feel compelled to showcase even the smallest achievements, the Sigma male stands apart. He understands that true accomplishment speaks for itself. Just as an oak tree does not need to announce when its roots deepen beneath the soil, a Sigma knows that quiet growth is the most powerful form of progress. Results, when they finally appear, are undeniable and far more impressive than any premature boasting. This approach is not about secrecy for its own sake, but about strategy. Research in psychology shows that people who loudly declare their goals often experience a sense of false achievement. In other words, by telling others what they plan to do, they trick their brains into feeling as though they've already succeeded. Sigma males avoid this trap by keeping their plans close to the chest, focusing their energy on execution rather than performance. Their restraint preserves motivation, ensuring that their achievements come to life fully formed rather than half-spoken. There is also an element of authority that grows from this silence. History is filled with figures who shaped the world not by clamoring for attention, but by working quietly until their results were too great to be ignored. Nikola Tesla, for instance, often worked in obscurity, unveiling inventions that stunned the world. Similarly, Sigma males know that respect is not earned through noise, but through undeniable evidence of competence. When results appear, whether in career, personal growth, or creative pursuits, they command attention naturally. People are drawn to proven strength, not to empty declarations. This quiet authority also protects the Sigma male from unnecessary judgment and interference. By not revealing every detail of his journey, he avoids critics, doubters, and saboteurs who might discourage or derail progress. Instead, he operates under the radar, allowing him to refine his craft, correct mistakes, and develop mastery without the distraction of outside opinions. In a culture obsessed with immediate validation, his silence becomes a shield as well as a strategy. Ultimately, Sigma males understand a simple law of life. Time reveals all things. Success does not need advertising when the outcome is undeniable. By choosing results over recognition and patience over performance, they cultivate a presence that is both commanding and effortless. It is this very refusal to announce every move that grants them the rarest form of respect, authority that is recognized without ever being requested. Number 6, they understand the value of mystery. There is strength in not being fully known. This is a principle that has echoed across history, psychology, and even nature itself. Think about the deep ocean. Scientists estimate that more than 80% of it remains unexplored. And because of that mystery, it commands awe and respect. In much the same way, people who are not entirely understood hold a certain power. They carry an air of unpredictability, And this unpredictability naturally shifts how others interact with them. Sigma males, in particular, thrive on this dynamic. By choosing what to reveal and what to withhold, they shape the way others perceive them while keeping control firmly in their own hands. Psychology backs this up. Research into social dynamics shows that uncertainty often increases intrigue. In fact, studies in interpersonal attraction have revealed that when people don't know everything about someone, their curiosity heightens and they become more invested in trying to understand that person. This aligns perfectly with how Sigma males operate. They reveal just enough to stay relevant, but never so much that they become predictable or easy to manipulate. This careful balance of disclosure keeps others guessing, ensuring that the Sigma male maintains leverage in both personal and professional settings. History also shows us the power of mystery. Take Nikola Tesla, for example. His reclusive personality and cryptic statements about his inventions built an almost mythical aura around him. People respected him not only for his genius, but also because they could never fully anticipate what he would do next. Similarly, ancient leaders often used mystery to project strength. By withholding their true intentions, they left rivals second-guessing, which often tilted the balance of power in their favor. In modern life, this translates to influence and resilience. When you don't reveal all your cards, others can't easily box you in or exploit your weaknesses. Sigma males, by nature, resist external control and thrive on self-reliance. Their unpredictability becomes a shield. In relationships, it keeps their partners intrigued. In business, it keeps competitors unsettled. And in social dynamics, it commands quiet respect, without needing loud displays of dominance. Ultimately, the Sigma male's mysterious nature isn't just about being secretive, it's a deliberate strategy for self-preservation, influence, and control over one's own narrative. Operating in the shadows is not about hiding. It is about prioritizing clarity over noise and purpose over performance. The Sigma male chooses silence not because he is weak, but because he understands that real power does not need constant display. History is filled with figures who thrived in quiet strength. Think of Nikola Tesla, whose innovations shaped modern technology, yet he often worked in solitude while others chased fame. Or Bruce Lee, who described stillness and restraint as forms of mastery, teaching that the wise are not learned and the learned are not wise. The Sigma embodies this principle. What matters is not how loudly he moves, but the direction of his journey and the discipline behind each step. By valuing observation over reaction, avoiding needless conflict and protecting his energy, the Sigma male preserves control over what many men lose, the ability to steer his own life without being consumed by distractions. Psychology even supports this. Studies in cognitive science show that people who spend more time observing before acting make sharper, longer-lasting decisions, while impulsive behavior often leads to stress and regret. In this way, the Sigma's deliberate stillness becomes a strategic advantage. In a society that glorifies constant noise, selfies, and status updates, his silence cuts through the chaos. It is not withdrawal, but strategy, like a chess player who knows that the strongest moves are rarely the most obvious. The brightest flames burn out quickly, but steady embers endure through the night. And so the Sigma male's mystery is not a mask, but a shield, making him untouchable by the turbulence of others. If you find yourself more comfortable listening than speaking, more focused on building than competing, you are not behind. You are refining wisdom in silence. You are gathering strength where others are losing it. And when the time comes, your results, not your noise, will speak for you. The world may overlook the man in the shadows, but the Sigma knows this is exactly where his power grows. There is something quietly magnetic about certain men. They don't raise their voices to be heard, they don't perform for attention, and they never beg for validation. Yet somehow the world seems to notice them anyway. These are the men often described as Sigmas, lone wolves who walk their own path, indifferent to the crowds, yet deeply aware of themselves. If you've ever been around a Sigma male, you'll know what I mean. There's a stillness about him, a presence that doesn't need to compete. It unsettles the noise of modern life. In a society where many men chase approval and bend themselves into shapes to be liked, the Sigma male does something radical. He simply remains himself. And women notice, not because he's trying, but because he isn't. His calm detachment, his quiet focus, and his refusal to play games all stand out in a world where so many chase and so few build. Psychologists sometimes call this non-reactivity. It's the art of not being pulled into the urgency of others' emotions. Instead of reacting, the Sigma pauses. Instead of chasing, he waits, and that restraint paradoxically makes him all the more attractive. But there's more to it than just calmness. Sigma males embody habits, choices, and ways of living that make them quietly irresistible, things that many men overlook, yet things women can't help but notice. In this video, we'll explore 6 of these traits. We'll move slowly, unpacking each one with care, so you can see not just what a Sigma does, but why it has such an effect. These are not flashy tricks or shallow tactics. They are deeper patterns of masculine self-possession, the kind that can't be faked, and the kind that drives women crazy in ways they often don't even understand themselves. Let's begin. Number 1, they don't chase validation. Sigma males don't chase validation, and that in itself is what makes them stand out. In a culture where so much of self-worth is tied to social approval, likes, followers, and external praise, the Sigma's refusal to play that game creates a powerful contrast. They carry themselves with quiet assurance, not because they think they are above others, but because they understand that worth is something intrinsic. This mindset aligns with what psychologists call self-determination theory, which emphasizes autonomy, competence, and internal motivation over external rewards. Instead of living for applause, Sigma males live by their own code, which naturally sparks curiosity in those around them, especially women. Independence, after all, is rare, and what is rare is often magnetic. Interestingly, studies in social psychology suggest that people who appear less dependent on external approval are often perceived as more attractive. This ties into the principle of scarcity. When something isn't easily obtained, it is seen as more valuable. Women may not consciously articulate it, but when they encounter a man who isn't bending over backwards for attention, their curiosity heightens. It's a refreshing deviation from the norm. Instead of wondering, how can I win his approval, the question shifts to, what makes him so self-assured? That shift in dynamic is powerful, creating intrigue without a single word spoken. From an evolutionary perspective, this independence also signals strength. In ancient tribal societies, leaders or lone hunters who thrived without constant group validation demonstrated resilience and competence. That same energy translates into modern times. A Sigma male doesn't need the crowd to validate his identity. His quiet strength speaks louder than social approval ever could. Women instinctively pick up on this energy because it conveys confidence without arrogance and assurance without neediness. It is not about being emotionally unavailable, but about not being emotionally dependent. On a deeper level, Sigma males remind us of the value of solitude in personal growth. Famous thinkers like Nietzsche, Emerson, and Thoreau often spoke about the strength that comes from walking one's path apart from the crowd. This doesn't mean isolation for its own sake, but rather cultivating a sense of self so strong that it cannot be shaken by opinions. In today's hyper-connected world, that quality feels almost revolutionary. So, when a Sigma male enters a room, he doesn't need to announce himself, boast, or seek acknowledgement. His very presence tells a story that his value was never borrowed from others but built within. And that, more than any charm or rehearsed line, is what draws people in. Number 2, they listen more than they speak. In a society overwhelmed by endless chatter, constant notifications, and the pressure to always have something to say, silence has become a rare and almost intimidating thing. Yet this is where the Sigma male stands apart. Unlike most who rush to fill every pause with words, the Sigma embraces stillness. He listens, not half-heartedly while waiting for his turn to speak, but fully, attentively, and without distraction. This act of intentional listening is more powerful than it seems. In fact, psychologists note that genuine listening releases oxytocin, the bonding hormone, which fosters trust and emotional intimacy. For many women, this kind of presence feels more grounding and meaningful than 100 empty compliments. When someone listens deeply, they signal that your thoughts are valuable, your words are worth space, and your presence deserves attention. That's why women often describe it as more intimate than flattery. Compliments can be rehearsed and superficial. Listening requires effort and sincerity. In a study by Harvard researchers, it was found that being listened to lights up the same reward centers in the brain as food and money. This shows that human beings are neurologically wired to crave attention of this kind. It validates our existence in a profound way. The Sigma doesn't offer this presence because he's trying to impress anyone. It comes naturally from his disposition. He is comfortable in silence, at ease with his own company, and unafraid of pauses that make others nervous. This self-possession gives him the patience to listen instead of filling every gap with words. Women sense this difference immediately. In a world where many men talk over them, dismiss their emotions, or turn conversations into competitions, the Sigma's listening feels refreshing, almost revolutionary. But beyond attraction, there's something educational here for anyone, Sigma or not. Developing the skill of listening is a discipline that can transform relationships, friendships, and even professional settings. Studies in organizational psychology show that leaders who practice active listening, responding thoughtfully, maintaining eye contact, and not interrupting, are rated as more competent, trustworthy, and charismatic. This isn't about charisma in the flashy sense, but in the deeper sense of being someone people want to follow or confide in. In the end, listening is a superpower hidden in plain sight. The Sigma's ability to pause, absorb, and make another person feel heard is not just a quirk of personality, it's a demonstration of strength. In a world obsessed with being noticed, he chooses instead to notice others, and that more than anything else is what makes his silence so unforgettable. Number 3, they move with purpose. Every action feels deliberate. A Sigma doesn't waste energy. His movements, whether in conversation, work, or daily life, carry intention. That subtle focus communicates quiet strength, and it is one of the most distinctive qualities that separates him from others. When you observe a Sigma male, you'll notice that nothing about him feels random or careless. He is often compared to a strategist who measures his steps carefully, conserving energy for what truly matters instead of scattering it across meaningless pursuits. This way of living mirrors the principles of efficiency found in nature itself. Think of a predator that stalks quietly, waiting for the precise moment to strike rather than chasing every shadow. In psychology, this kind of intentional behavior is linked to higher levels of self-regulation and discipline. Studies in behavioral science show that people who act with deliberate focus often achieve more because they avoid what's known as decision fatigue, the exhaustion that comes from constantly making unnecessary choices. A Sigma male, by narrowing his focus, minimizes wasted thought and action, which leaves him with more mental clarity and energy. This is why his presence can feel calm yet commanding. He isn't rushing, but he is never aimless. In social situations, this purposeful nature becomes especially noticeable. While others might try to impress with loud gestures, over-explanations, or unnecessary chatter, the Sigma speaks and acts with precision. A pause before he answers isn't hesitation, it's calculation. Women in particular tend to notice this because it sets him apart from the crowd. In a world where so many people compete for attention, the man who doesn't waste energy becomes magnetic by contrast. His silence, his measured movements, and even his stillness all signal a kind of mastery that doesn't need validation. This deliberate way of moving through life also extends to personal growth and work. A Sigma male tends to cut out distractions, creating a lifestyle that feels minimal but highly effective. Research into productivity backs this up. Focusing on fewer tasks with greater intensity yields better results than attempting to multitask endlessly. It is no coincidence that many highly successful individuals, from Stoic philosophers like Marcus Aurelius to modern entrepreneurs, advocate for simplicity, clarity, and intentional living. In essence, the Sigma male embodies a principle that resonates across history, science, and philosophy. True strength is quiet, controlled, and intentional. His deliberate actions remind us that the most powerful movements are often the ones that appear effortless, yet carry the weight of deep thought and purpose. Number 4, they value their time. Sigma males treat time with a reverence that sets them apart. To them, time is not just a resource, it is sacred. They understand that once a moment passes, it can never be retrieved, and this awareness shapes the way they live. Unlike many who overcommit in order to please others or avoid confrontation, a Sigma male carefully chooses where and with whom he spends his hours. He doesn't chase busyness for the sake of appearing important, and he certainly doesn't linger in spaces that drain him emotionally, mentally, or spiritually. This restraint is more than personal preference. It is discipline, a principle deeply rooted in psychology and even echoed in historical philosophy. The Stoics, for example, often reminded themselves of the brevity of life. Seneca, in his essay on the shortness of life, wrote that it is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste much of it. Sigma males seem to embody this wisdom in their daily choices, living as though each decision is a deliberate investment rather than a casual expense. Women notice this quality quickly, and it intrigues them. In a culture where many men try to prove their worth by overextending themselves or constantly being available, the Sigma's discipline in guarding his time stands out. It signals clarity of mind, a man who knows what he values and isn't afraid to walk away from anything that doesn't align with it. Psychologists would describe this as high self-determination, an ability to direct one's life based on internal principles rather than external pressures. Studies on attraction also confirm that people are drawn to those who demonstrate independence and strong boundaries, because it conveys stability and confidence. A Sigma male, therefore, doesn't need to announce his worth. His disciplined approach to time speaks louder than words. This way of living doesn't just impact relationships, it transforms the Sigma's own life. By refusing to waste time in draining spaces, he preserves his energy for what truly matters, whether that's meaningful work, personal growth, or moments of solitude that sharpen his perspective. In a fast-paced society that rewards constant engagement, the Sigma male's restraint can feel almost rebellious. Yet it is this rebellion that allows him to remain focused, unshaken and free. To those observing him, especially women who value discipline and clarity, this becomes not just admirable but magnetic. Time is sacred to everyone, but few live as though it truly is. The Sigma male does, and that is part of what makes him unforgettable. Number 5. They carry mystery without trying. The Sigma male's tendency to remain quiet and avoid oversharing isn't a tactic. It's a natural way of being. His silence is not the heavy, awkward kind, but rather a grounded calm that draws people in. In a world where constant noise, rapid posting, and endless self-disclosure have become the norm, this quiet restraint feels different. It carries weight. Words from him arrive with intention, not as filler, and that very scarcity makes them more valuable. Women, in particular, sense this difference. They often describe it as an aura of mystery, but at its core, it's simply a man who has learned that not everything needs to be said. Psychologists note that people who are comfortable with silence often project confidence and self-control. In communication studies, this is called high-value silence. Moments when someone chooses not to speak, creating anticipation and deeper attention. Research shows that humans naturally become more curious about what is withheld than what is freely offered. That curiosity is exactly why women often feel compelled to lean in, to try and uncover what lies behind the Sigma's quiet exterior. His silence becomes a canvas for their imagination. Rather than chasing attention, he allows intrigue to form on its own. But there's another layer to this. Silence in many cultures has long been associated with wisdom. Ancient Stoics like Marcus Aurelius taught that restraint in speech reveals mastery over the self. Even in Eastern traditions, silence has been considered a form of discipline and strength, symbolizing clarity of mind and emotional control. When a Sigma male embodies this naturally, it resonates with something universal. People sense depth where noise is absent. Women, especially in environments where shallow conversations dominate, find this rare. His quiet doesn't repel, it compels. Interestingly, modern neuroscience supports this as well. Studies show that when people spend time in silence, the brain undergoes processes similar to meditation, reducing stress and improving emotional balance. A Sigma, by not feeling the need to constantly fill the air with chatter, unconsciously signals that he is not controlled by anxiety or the need for approval. This calm presence translates into magnetic energy. He isn't trying to be mysterious. It's simply the byproduct of living in tune with himself. What women pick up on is not just the mystery of silence, but the confidence behind it. They notice how he doesn't rush to prove himself, doesn't brag, and doesn't seek validation through stories or excessive detail. His words, when finally spoken, feel measured, meaningful, and often unexpected. This unpredictability heightens attraction because it contrasts sharply with the predictability of oversharing. Where others exhaust themselves to be understood, the Sigma thrives in being only partially revealed. In essence, the Sigma male's silence is not a mask, but a mirror. It reflects strength, depth, and restraint in a world that constantly rewards noise. His natural refusal to overshare doesn't just set him apart, it makes him unforgettable. Number 6, they walk away easily. Perhaps most striking of all, Sigma males know when to leave. This trait is more than just walking away. It is the embodiment of strength through detachment. Unlike many who cling to relationships, jobs, or social circles out of fear of loss, rejection, or the unknown, Sigma males have cultivated the rare ability to step away when respect is no longer present. They understand that dignity outweighs attachment, and that leaving a situation that undermines their worth is not weakness, but wisdom. Psychologists often call this secure detachment, a mindset where one does not define their identity by others' validation. Instead of seeking external approval, they trust their own judgment, and that trust allows them to exit situations that no longer align with their values. This ability is both educational and inspiring when we examine it through human behavior. Studies in social psychology reveal that many people stay in toxic environments due to the sunk cost fallacy, the belief that because they've invested time, energy, or emotions, they must continue, even if the situation is harmful. Sigma males defy this trap. Their refusal to beg for acceptance or cling to fading respect is rooted in rational thinking, not impulsive pride. In this sense, their approach reflects Stoic philosophy. The Stoics, such as Marcus Aurelius and Epictetus, taught that true freedom comes from detaching from what we cannot control and refusing to be enslaved by unhealthy attachments. This mirrors the Sigma mindset. Leaving is not about abandonment, but about self-preservation and clarity. What makes this quality entertaining to reflect upon is how rare it is in our culture. In movies, novels, and even everyday gossip, the drama often centers around people who stayed too long, whether in love, friendship, or ambition. Yet the Sigma male cuts a different figure, resembling the lone wolf archetype who drifts silently out of spaces where respect fades. This action confuses people because we live in a world where most expect a fight, a chase, or an explanation. The Sigma provides none. He simply leaves, and in doing so leaves behind a mystery that speaks louder than words. Women in particular often find this magnetic because it breaks the pattern of neediness that dominates much of modern social interaction. A man who can leave without bitterness, without begging, is a man who demonstrates control over his emotions, a trait both rare and powerful. Educationally, there is something here for anyone to learn, whether Sigma or not. Knowing when to walk away protects mental health, preserves dignity, and opens the door to better opportunities. History is filled with examples of great figures who embraced this principle.